Okay, as iterated before, the general steps, the general moves that you're expected to make, the way you format your usage of the information and words and concepts from the lesson relevant to this last paragraph or set of paragraphs is the same. In this video, I will focus on helping you identify something to which you can apply the concept and lessons and definitions from the slide with respect to intellectual perseverance. So of course, you're going to start off with the main definition, all of the definition, and then carefully connect your identified thinking learning moment or categories of thinking and learning to the definition you just quoted. So as with the other task, this stuff generally remains the same. What we're going to focus on is, what are some instances or some scenarios that you can use for this assignment. So we're thinking of ethics. And so one strategy might be to talk about, and I'm just throwing stuff out there, maybe you have increased your ability to manifest intellectual perseverance. Maybe you've become more aware of the importance of intellectual perseverance in virtue of taking this ethics class. So some questions that might help you develop an answer for that is, how would you rate your awareness of intellectual perseverance and how it influences you as a learner and thinker at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of this ethics course, and now? Would you say that you were completely unaware of the concept and how important it is to thinking and learning? Would you say it was very, that you were very aware, you had already heard of the concept, you'd already seen the definitions? When did you, can you remember when you were first introduced to the lesson? So look at the syllabus, look at the schedule. Would you say that you have become more aware, not only more aware, but that you have began to manifest intellectual perseverance more and more over the course of the semester in this ethics class? So, be careful, because remember that when you're talking about intellectual perseverance, I don't want you to focus on your intellectual perseverance in other classes or in a context outside of, being a student. You have to focus specifically on ethics. So you can say things like, I've become more aware of intellectual perseverance generally, but then you have to connect that specifically to how that is within the context of ethics. So that's one approach. And then you go into detail. So maybe you didn't reflect it earlier in the semester with the first assignments. So then you can pull from the lesson to give an example of a kind of assignment, or at the beginning, how with respect to specific initial assignments, you didn't really reflect it. Did that show up in your grades? Did you begin to see a change? Like if you'd rate yourself a 1 at the beginning of the semester for intellectual perseverance, and you saw that in some kind of performance outcome, when did you begin to notice a change in your mindfulness or ability to reflect intellectual perseverance? Can you give an example of an assignment where you would say you reflected it more? And was there a particular assignment where you felt you reflected it a lot? So you could discuss your mindfulness, awareness, and ability to manifest the virtue over the course of the period, maybe focusing on earlier in the semester, midpoint of the semester, late point of the semester. So in this sense, you could start off by talking about how maybe you could even, these are just suggestions, you could talk about how maybe you were intellectually lazy and then began to develop intellectual perseverance. Now notice I'm not being critical or judgmental. I'm giving you ideas to discuss things. I don't know, I'm speaking to everybody. And of course, I'm not saying everybody's intellectually lazy, but somebody might have been. So that's an example where you can do that. Of course, you can focus on a specific assignment. You can assess your intellectual perseverance or lack thereof. So for example, the Aristotle essay would be a good one. So for those of you who got at least a B or an A, you could talk about how you reflected it. If you got an A, you probably reflected it very strongly. You can think back to all the steps you had to go through, right? The first step was getting the initial outline and a lecture on the purpose of the essay. And then I had you review and work through things on plagiarism and academic honesty. And then I had an extensive step on all the sources you can use. I also had videos. For each of these steps, I had videos you had to watch. And then probably the most intense videos, were the ones where you were applying and then of course I talked about the research. And then for the essay, I also talked about I told you how to do each paragraph for applying Aristotle's virtue concepts, right? How to research your definitions, how to apply them. I gave you examples. So chances are that if you got an A on this, then you really manifested it. But of course, it could be that you forgot about intellectual perseverance and you weren't displaying it when you first started the essay assignment, but then you started to really become more aware of it and reflect it more as you work through the Aristotle assignment. Let's say you got an F or a C. Could it be that you did not manifest awareness and the ability to reflect intellectual perseverance? Well, then talk about that. Do you think that your lack of intellectual perseverance or deficiencies in your intellectual perseverance, not having enough of that which makes you perseverant, do you think that that somehow ended up affecting your performance on the essay? Now, if you didn't do the essay, you can't really talk about it because you don't have an outcome. So now, if you decided, if you were working halfway through it and then you stopped because of the amount of work that was entailed, then you can talk about that, but you need to detail that. You could also talk about intellectual perseverance in terms of trying to understand the theories in the book. So maybe pick 2 or 3 theories. Maybe pick the 2 theories that you found the most difficult to understand. So you might tell me which theories from which chapters you found the easiest to understand, and then were there some that required you to be more mindful of in terms of making sure that you manifested intellectual perseverance to understand. A lot of students, for example, find it very difficult to understand Kant's duty ethics, and so that might be true of you. So you can maybe compare and contrast how, it was easy for you to understand one theory, but then you really had to, tap into your intellectual perseverance to understand another theory or something like that. You could also apply that to, and again, the question here is why? Why would it take intellectual perseverance to understand some of the theories? What is it about the theories? What is it about the concept? What is it about the way the philosophers think, the way the philosophers talk? It's not like you're reading, how does reading about a philosopher's theory, for example, compare to reading a tweet or a social media post or just talking with your friends, at McDonald's, right? It's not the same usage of language. It's different. Intellectual perseverance could also be discussed with respect to a contemporary moral problem that you read about. So, for example, going back to, abortion or genetic enhancement. Genetic enhancement in gene therapy would probably be even better because those are technical terms. And so probably when you were learning about that contemporary moral issue, you came across a lot of terms that you had not come across before. And maybe, in fact, you had never even heard of genetic enhancement, or gene therapy. And so maybe you had to learn about some new concepts and how they connect, and then, learn what, you needed more intellectual perseverance in terms of, understanding those concepts and how they connect to moral questions. But you might have also needed it to understand the different views. So again, why is intellectual perseverance important to working through some of the readings, the theories, and or the debates and concepts related to maybe one or more contemporary moral problems that you read about? And then how would you rate yourself when you were first learning about a particular theory or a contemporary moral problem? And then did you increase or become mindful of, or, if you started off with a low rating, like not aware of, not really being intellectual perseverance, did you change over time in virtue of doing the reading, trying to understand what you were reading? Or would you say you rocked it from the beginning? But you get the gist. So I'm giving you examples of how you can, apply intellectual perseverance. Do not, if you were in class for the on-campus extra credit sessions, you really can't use that session for intellectual perseverance. That wouldn't be a compelling context, subcontext, or scenario to which you could apply intellectual perseverance. So I recommend that you focus on that, on the readings, either theory or contemporary moral problem, and then break it down, get into details about that. Another thing to which you could apply the concept of intellectual perseverance, and of course I've talked about the Aristotle essay, but maybe when you were doing topic responses. So for the topic responses, we had the scenario of being a truck driver with the COVID-19 vaccinations and George Floyd protesters blocking the freeway. We had the one of Roberta and the police coming looking for her because they have a video of her where a woman was killed after her business was destroyed. So think about that, think about all the steps involved in that. You got the scenario, and then you got the video, you got instructions. I know that there was one topic where I presented my version of a lesson on argument. And then, of course, I talked about how to set up your argument in response to a scenario in preparation for a discussion board. Maybe you needed a lot of intellectual perseverance and reflected it, rocked it, it was easy, or maybe you didn't, you just wanted to get the assignment over with because it was difficult. If that's the case, you can talk about that. But again, you can focus on how you did or did not reflect intellectual perseverance relative to reading through a scenario and formulating your argument with respect to a topic in preparation for discussion board. Or you could focus on how maybe you were not mindful of and did not reflect intellectual perseverance at the beginning of the assignment and how you came to do that. But again, make sure you give me details. What was the topic? What was the gist of the scenario? Did you have to watch videos in terms of what to do? What did the videos tell you to do? Was it difficult or easy for you to learn what I wanted, to absorb the scenario and the details, and then apply what I said in the video or videos in terms of what I wanted you to do? So if you happen to take notes, which you should have, when engaging with the written and video-based topic instructions, topic assignments, topic response assignments, then you can certainly refer to your notes about what I said in the video and the topic. That will help you provide some contextual details as you develop your answer, as you're applying and connecting explicitly words and concepts from the definition for intellectual perseverance and the bullet points to your chosen scenario, assignment, moment in this class, or categories of activity.